In this lesson, we're going to start taking a look at some of the material from Unit 7A. And particularly, we're going to look at some stuff out of boxes A and boxes B. Box A is just a simple review of graphing points on the coordinate axes. And in box B, we're going to take a look at if you've got a set of points that are graphed in a scatter plot, how can you interpret what these points actually mean? So first, let's just take a look at graphing here. So whenever we have points that we're asked to graph, they're always given to us as an ordered pair with an x-coordinate and a y-coordinate. And the first number is always your x-coordinate, the second number is always your y-coordinate. Now what do these two numbers mean? Well, if we look at an example, 5, 6, 5 is our x-coordinate, 6 is our y-coordinate. And if we look at our grid over here, the horizontal axis, or the one that goes across, is our x-axis. And the one that is vertical, or goes up and down, is our y-axis. So 5, 6, if we have an x at 5, or an x value of 5, this means if we start at 0, 0, we have to go over 5 in the x direction. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The y equals 6 means that from there, we have to go up 6, or positive 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And when we've done that, we put our little point right there. So this would be the point 5, 6. So this is kind of like, it's kind of like a hotel. 0, 0 is the door. You always go into the door, and first thing you have to go down the hall, and then you go up or down the elevator. So it's always left or right first, and then you go up or down. So let's just go through the rest of these points here and plot them on the graph. Point A here is negative 4, 6, so we start at 0, 0, and we go negative 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 in the x direction, in the horizontal direction, and then we go up 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and we're going to label this point, point A, so we know which one it is. Point B, it's at 2, 3, so we go to negative 3, sorry, so we go 2 in the x direction, and then because it's negative 3 in the y direction, we have to go down, 1, 2, 3. And this will be point B right here. C is negative 6, negative 4. So we go negative 6, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in the x direction. And then we go down 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And that gets us point C. Point D, 5, 0. So we've got 5 in the x direction. So we go over 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But our y-coordinate is 0, so we don't go up or down any at all. So we just stay right there on our x-axis. And that would be point D. Point E, our x is 0, our y is negative 7. So we start at 0, 0, and we don't go any direction. We don't go any spaces left or right because our x is 0. And then we just go down 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Put our point there, and we'll label this point E. So that's plotting points. Now they could also ask us to do the opposite. They could give us a series of points that have already been plotted, and we want to come up with the coordinates. So if we look at point F here, we're going to give it, the coordinates of course are going to be an ordered pair. So two numbers separated by a comma. And our first number represents how far we have to go over, left or right, from 0, 0, so we have to go over 1, 2, and then we have, so our x-coordinate is going to be 2, and then we have to go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so our y-coordinate is going to be 5. Similarly for G, we find G over here, we have to go from 0, 0, we have to go 1, 2, negative 3 in the x direction, and then we don't have to go up or down, so our y-coordinate is 0. Point H, start at 0, 0. We don't have to go left or right at all, so our x-coordinate is 0. Then we do have to go down 1, 2, 3, 4. So negative 4. Finally, our I-coordinate, start at 0, 0. We have to go over 1, 2, 3, 4 in the x direction. And then we have to go down 1, 2, so 4, negative 2. So that's the basics of plotting points on a scatter plot. Now the scatter plots we're going to be looking at are going to look a little bit more like this. Okay. We've got a series of points. All of these points are labeled. We have our axes labeled, so we have points scored over here, and we have time played along the bottom. And whenever you're making a scatter plot, make sure you always label the axes here. And then we have this little legend over here to the side that tells us sort of what each point represents here. So let's read the description down here at the bottom. During the 2005 regular season, 15 athletes played for the New York Liberty. The scatter plot shows data for the team. Okay? And what it shows, again, is points scored and time played. So on this graph, the x-axis is, well, the x-axis is the one that is horizontal, so it is time played. The y-axis is the vertical axis. What is on the y-axis? Well, let's just read our label over here. That tells us the y-axis is points scored. So for each player, they calculated how much time they played, totaled up how many points they scored, and plotted these two pieces of data on the graph. Point M represents the player Robinson and has coordinates 975 to 55. What does this mean? Well, the 975 is our x coordinate. So what that 975 means is it means, well, what is on our x-axis? Our x-axis is time played. So that 975 represents the number of minutes she played. So this means she played 975 minutes. And the second number, the 255, is our y-coordinate. What's plotted on our y-coordinate? Points scored. So the 255 represents the number of points she scored. So she played 975 minutes and scored 255 points in those 975 minutes. So let's take a look at a couple of other questions that we can use this graph to answer. Which athlete played for 361 minutes, and how many points did she score? Well, let's go back to our graph here, and we want to find 361 minutes. Well, the number of minutes is time played, so we're going to be down here on our x-axis, and we want to go over to 371. So we come over here. This would be, we see 400 here, so this is going to be 100, 200, 300, 360 would be right about here. Okay? So the point that we're interested in is point I, right here. And the question is asking us how many points did she score? Well, to find the number of points she scored, we have to read this off our y-axis over here. So it looks like we're a little bit less than 100. So let's say she scored about 80 points. So which athlete played for 361 minutes? It was point I, which, if we look at that table, tells us that the athlete's name was Fred. And how many points did she score? She scored about 80 points. We don't know exactly how many because we have to sort of estimate off the graph. Next question here. Which athlete scored about 353 points? Well, let's go back to our graph here and let's find 353 points, or estimate where it is. So we're on the points scored axis, or the y-axis. 353 would be right about here, so let's go across until we find the point that we're interested in. Okay, it's got to be this point N. Okay, N is the player named Johnson. And we're also asked how many minutes she played. So to find minutes played, we're going to go down here and read off what number we have on the time played axis. So that's 800, 900, 1,000. So we're looking at something like 1,025 maybe. So which athlete scored about 353 points? Point N, Johnson. And about how many minutes did she play? She played about 1,025 minutes. And again, that's just an estimate. How many athletes scored more than 200 points? Well, let's go back to our graph here. And let's see, where is the 200-point line? Okay, so anybody who is above this line here has scored more than 200 points. So, how many points are there? Well, each point represents an athlete. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 points are above that line. So 6 athletes scored more than 200 points. And that's scatter plots.